when panic sets in, you're actually not making the right decision. Everybody likes to talk about a food and beverage. Everybody likes to comment on food and beverage and hospitality experience. Our challenge for this industry, especially for this city, is finding a professional service staff. They struggle from the perspective of getting the right staff in right position. It's great when we all are in the same room trying to figure out how we can help each other.
I'm here with the Serbian sensations, Aleks and Stefan. So Aleks, you've got a cleaning company.
Correct.
But we don't care about your cleaning company because that's boring. Nobody wants to hear about a cleaning company.
Correct.
That nobody cares about.
At this point of time, COVID is done.
But you do have a concierge service company.
Yeah.
That is a lot more interesting, and we're going to definitely talk about that. And if we have time, we're going to talk about landing planes and possibly crashing planes.
All right.
If we got some time.
Fair enough. And how that relates to concierge.
Yeah,
It doesn't relate to it at all, but it does make for good conversation.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So, Stefan, what do you do for a living?
I'm an air traffic controller at Toronto Pearson Airport.
And explain what that is, because whenever you tell someone that you're an air traffic controller, the first thing that comes to their mind, I'm sure, is the guy on the tarmac going like this.
Waving wands.
Right?
In simple terms, I tell the pilot how to fly his plane and make sure he flies it safely without crashing into other planes.
I see.
In a nutshell.
And I see that you assumed that the pilot is a man.
Oh, I guess so.
Right? Okay. So we'll flip over to Aleks. Alex, what do you do for a living?
So I have, as you said, a cleaning company. The reason behind that was actually we started this BGD Solution company right before the COVID. And our idea was to have concierge services for the offices. And then COVID hit 2 months later, and we were just got wiped from our concierge services, and we started doing cleaning. Now COVID is gone, obviously, and we are just now back to concierge services. And just to explain really quickly about concierge services is basically it's what client wants in the sense of the scope of work. We can do as little for the office as cleaning and facility management to event management, their lunch selections, and front office management. So basically, it's the scope of the work the client requires from us that we're going to actually execute.
So I want to actually get onto that. And that's sort of one of the reasons that I find you interesting and your story interesting. It's because you literally... And you took a big risk, right? Like, you know, you look like a young man, but, you know.
Thank you, Fab.
Yeah, thank you. But let's be realistic here.
Yep.
You have a family.
Yep.
You have household expenditures that you needed to meet. And you decided to take the risk and go off on your own because you were employed, like in just a regular corporate setting, getting a steady salary, right? Now your spouse, your wife, she's employed, so you had that to fall back on, but it wasn't like you were at the risk of exposing your situation. It wasn't like you were sitting on tens of millions of dollars to fall back on. You still needed your revenue, but you left that world and went off on your own in your mid 40s with 2 kids, right? With expenditures, and essentially the worst case scenario played out. You started a business that relied on commercial real estate operating or offices operating, and that completely shut down.
Correct.
Right? So why don't you give a little bit, I want to hear more about that.
So what happened is that I used to be working for the biggest hospitality company in the world as a regional director. And in one point of time, I was managing accounts such as Google, Amazon, RBC for whole Canada. And I kind of quickly realized that in 2019, there is an opportunity for concierge services for the smaller offices below 1,000 people, where big companies are not going to care about those offices as much because of the fact that, you know, the money's not there for them. So somewhere in 2019, end of 2019, December, we started negotiating with a couple of offices in Liberty Village. They're IT offices, and they're actually signed a contract with us somewhere in December 2019 for us to start in January 2020.
And was this mostly for cleaning, catering, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so it was for actually cleaning was just an add-on in that point of time. It actually was mostly focused on event planning for that office, lunch delivery. So for example, that office at the time had like 350 people. Every day they needed lunch delivery. So because we know most of the caterers in the city, we were like ordering different lunches, kind of packaging those lunches in like, Mexican theme, Italian theme, and so forth, right? And then clients said, hey, why don't you do the cleaning for us? And we're like, sure, we'll do the cleaning. We hired a couple of cleaners, and basically somewhere in March, everything got shut down because of the COVID, and we got wiped in a sense. In the time we had like 12 employees, and there was only 3 of us left, and to clean those offices because the offices were like 150,000 square foot. And I just vividly remember this day when we were like sitting down, me and my 2 other managers that I had at the time in my garage smoking cigars, and we were like, what are we gonna do now? And the only answer to that was that cleaning is the thing that was left. So we were just, okay, so we're going to do the cleaning. So fast forward, I actually took infection prevention control courses so we could actually do the cleaning against the COVID. So we had those like lovely suits and everything. Like,
what a capitalist.
Yeah. So we kind of pivoted really fast into cleaning and disinfecting against COVID. And because we had a couple of connections in construction industry, we realized construction is not closed down or shut down completely.
Right.
So we were like, okay, so let's go do construction cleaning as well. So that actually helped us survive those couple of years during the COVID because nobody was caring about events.
So this literally all happened in the first 6 months of your business.
All this happened in the first 4 months of the business.
Oh my God.
So everything that we had to pivot it, like, so because we opened in January 2020 and March 2020, we got shut down. In April 2020, we already made a decision what we're going to do next. And then basically we start doing disinfection against COVID and construction cleaning of this offices that were left in Liberty Village. So,
but then it blew up though. Like it started really like
it's very slowly. It started very slowly. What happened is actually with my buddy had a connection with a radio station. So I was able to go to their morning show and start talking about disinfection. We got some against COVID. So we got jobs from that radio morning show that blew up, like factory disinfections and things like that. So really quickly, somewhere in September 2020, we got like 5 factories to disinfect against COVID. And that because some of the factories were still open, obviously, because, essential factories, food factories and things like that didn't stop working at all. And then for 2 years, we're just doing that. There was nothing else. Events were just our dream.
Well, there were no events. It was illegal to have
zero events. Like, but all my life, that was the only thing I know how to do. That, how to produce the event or how to do concierge services. The only time I had touch with the cleaning was I used to be a director of catering, cleaning, and waste for Pan Am Games. So from that point on, I kind of realized what cleaning entails and what kind of things you need to do in order to kind of be successful in that. But we never had an opportunity.
It was really a new thing then.
Yeah, it was completely new.
To put this into context, we take you all the way back to where you're originally from in Serbia, in Belgrade. It was hospitality the whole way through.
Hospitality whole way through. I used to run like a boutique hotel in Serbia. When I came to Toronto, I used to work for Royal Agriculture Winter Fair as a hospitality director, PGA Canadian Open hospitality director, Tennis Canada hospitality director.
Yeah, it's always
hospitality. And through all that experience, now it allowed me to actually understand what concierge services would entail to, in order to come to this point where this is what we wanted to do always, like concierge services. Now, like I'll give you an example. We have a law firm that required from us to do some like gift packages for them. We never did a gift package. What's the gift package? How to do this? Where to get all the supplies? So like within a couple of days, we were able to pivot that and produce like 50 gift packs. It's not a lot, but it's still
But it's another avenue that you
it's
can
completely,
pursue, right?
completely other avenue of stuff, right?
So that's that's a huge struggle. So now I remember when I started my business, I had been working since 2002 as an accountant in finance, financial advisor. I had a number of different roles at large companies, and I was like, this. I don't want to deal with these. I don't want to have a boss. I want to be on my own. I thought that the grass was definitely greener on the other side. I thought I was so smart and intelligent. And, so 2010, I decided I'm out. So now it's been 15 years, right? So it's literally at the beginning of 2010, right? I said, I'm out of here. I'm going on my own. I'm too good for these people. I was quickly humbled. I was very, very quickly humbled because I had to struggle. I had no clients. So I had a mortgage to pay. I had no revenue. And, I'm borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. And then fast forward 14 years, whatever it is, I'm completely fine now. I would never look back to it. Yeah. There are some people, in my business, I deal with a lot of startup entrepreneurs, and there are some spectacular failures. There's some spectacular where it ruins people. Right? When you first started going through that massive struggle, because it was like, okay, we're peaking very quickly. We have a lot of customers. We have a great market. You have all the connections. And then you had to pivot. What was going through your mind at that time? Were you panicking at all, or did you just plow through it?
It was not a panic, right? Because at that point of time, it was like I knew it's like either we're going to shut out the doors, which we almost did, or we have to come up with something else, right? Because when panic sets in, you're actually not making the right decisions. Like if Stefan made a panic move, couple of plays would shut down easily, right?
That would be all over the news. If you and I panic, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, nobody cares.
This guy panics, it's worldwide news.
There's a news right there. Yeah. But in my mind, it was not a panic. It was just like, look, just to step back, it was almost my last train to go into my own business, because I always wanted to have my own company and do this. And it was like, tomorrow, kids, this. It was always something. And just stepping into my own business in mid 40s, I was like 47 at the time. No, 46. It was just a last. In my mind, it was the last possible moment that I can actually step into my business. And then in that point of time, when we got shut down by COVID, it was like, nothing is going to stop me now, because I waited. We're going to have to figure it out. We waited so long. I waited so long to go into my own business, right? Look, it's that mindset. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So even now, roll back a couple of months back, one of my long-standing friends, she used to be my client when I was working for this hospitality company, and we stayed in touch for a couple of years, and we just talk about concierge services. And she basically works for a multinational company that has offices all across Canada. And I used to manage her flagship office here in Toronto. So she calls me up, and Toronto office is huge, 2,000 employees, 10 floors and things like that. And they have concierge services. And she's
multiple service providers, right?
Multiple service providers. She's like, you know what? I need now 2 to 5 people to start the next 2 weeks, because we want to expand these concierge services. And in that moment, I just assume it's Toronto. So I called my HR director. I'm like, great news. We finally got a serious client. It's it's downtown Toronto office. It's a big office. We're on our merry way now.
Where were they?
Yeah. To the thing. And now, a week before we're supposed to start, client calls me and she's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just getting ready and things like that. And just dawns on me, she has offices in Vancouver and Montreal as well.
Oh, shit.
And she goes, I go, hey, what's the address of this office? And she goes, it's Vancouver.
Here we go.
And I'm like, thanks for that. I didn't want to say, hey, I really didn't know. So we quickly found 2 people from within the company. They're willing to relocate to Vancouver. hours. So within 5 days, we actually relocate 2 people, 2 managers from here, because it's a big client. So you don't want to like start picking people from Vancouver that you know, randoms that you don't know. And we basically had to book the tickets, find them accommodations, things like that. Within 48 hours, they were on the plane and they started concierge services. That's that mode that you cannot be panicking when something like that happens to you. You're in the wrong business then, because clients will come to you from all possible angles and you have to deal with that.
Now, that's a good point. I want to put a pin in that because that transitions me to my next question, which is actually for you, right? You see, in my business, it's very different. Consulting, tax advisory, financial advisory. There is some sort of a panic on the asset management side, like when I'm managing people's assets. But I've selected my clients and I've designed my client portfolios in such a manner that even if the market just flash drops, nobody's really bringing my phone off the hook. I've just created that scenario. So in my business, my specific business, the one that I run, there aren't too many hyper panic moments, right? And I've done that because I don't like them, right? Some people thrive. Obviously, you thrive with them. I want to flip it over to you actually for a second, because what you do for a living, to me, looks like one of the most stressful, hyper panic constant moments ever. And I would rather jump off the CN Tower face first than do what you do for a living. So I want to get, because it's a similar situation in the sense that it's always an emergency, it feels like, no?
Yeah.
Explain like the levels of to your job, because there's people, dealing with Cessnas, and then there's people dealing with jet planes, right?
So air traffic controller is usually divided into 2 streams. IFR, which is instrument, the I stands for instrument, and VFR, the V stands for visual. So visual air traffic controllers are in towers. The people that don't think we do baton work on the runway, they assume air traffic controllers are exclusively in towers. There's also the instrument flight rules, where air traffic controllers like myself work in an area control center. So we're relying on instruments, which is radar screens, technology, and so forth.
So you cannot physically see the airplanes you're controlling.
Right? So that's why it's split into those 2 streams. Each stream has its own challenges. For me personally, in the instrument flight rules, I like the challenges of complexity and volume and the size of airspace, because I'm looking at a radar screen. The radar screen is geographical based off of maps in Ontario. I'm working every single plane that flies through my piece of airspace, and I'm the only one controlling all of these aircraft. So in busy periods, it could be up to 30, 40 aircraft at a time. Now, in the instrument flight rule as well, it's split vertically as well. So you've got high level and low level. So high level, it varies from, I guess, area control center to center. It's different everywhere. But for myself specifically, the split is at 24,000 feet. So everything 24,000 feet and above, flying over Ontario, I'm controlling.
Put that into context. What flies over that level?
Exactly. So what flies over 24,000 feet? It's going to be business jets, cargo jets, military, and obviously all the civilian air traffic.
And UFOs.
And UAPs now.
UAP.
I don't know why they changed the term.
Yes, everything's got to be changed.
Everything's got to be changed. It's got to be, politically correct.
Okay.
UAP.
Okay.
So basically anything that the modern person thinks of as a plane flies over 24,000 feet. And I'm not talking to any of these like Cessnas, we call them like weekend warriors. Like you buy a plane and you want to go flying. Okay. Like I'm not talking to you.
You're talking to the U.S. military flying over our airspace. You're talking to FedEx sending a massive, crazy, huge jet.
Yeah, exactly that. So cargo, I'm talking all the business guys. I'm talking when you picture any plane flying from LA to Europe, it's flying over Ontario. Right. Some of the times.
Yeah.
So everybody that you could kind of think of flying from North America to Europe, from the southern part of America, like Atlanta, New York, going to Asia, they fly right over us. They fly north. So a lot of different avenues. Now, when you're talking about like the panic and the decision making, there's obviously how I like to think of my job. I like to think every job has its stressful moments. I mean, you just explained all the stress that you have. So when people kind of categorize like surgeons, air traffic controllers, military, pilots as like, these are the most stressful jobs in the world. Sure, from like
Immediate in your face
stress point of view, yes. But I feel like every professional in that job, in that industry, like if I talk to your friends or my friends that are doctors and working in ER, they don't, I would never be able to do that. Like you said, I'd rather jump off the CN Tower than do that. But they're able to kind of understand that stress, and their skill set is suited for that stress.
Right.
So I don't like to think of my job as the most stressful job. I think every job is stressful. I just think that you need to have the right people in each industry. And for me personally, I enjoy the chaos. It's almost like sadistic.
When I imagine planes, I imagine a pilot, you know, kind of like it's like driving a car. You look around, oh, there's a Bobby over there. And I'm just gonna, I'll turn this way.
Don't worry
but
about
that's not
Bobby
what's
anymore.
happening. They're relying on you.
Yes.
To and everybody wants to fly in the same lane.
Yes.
So it's very easy to have two planes. It's and I don't want to scare people away from flying, but it is very easy for two planes to hit each other.
It is.
Like it's way easier than people think for two planes to smoke each other.
Yeah.
Because they're going so fast. They're relying completely on you. There could be complete cloud cover. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
And one wrong move, boom. And it's happened. It's happened.
It has happened. It's obviously rare, and there's a lot of safety features that go into effect. But I kind of explain to people really don't realize that pilots, and like obviously they have their challenges, but when they're flying, they don't know what's around them. They're either flying in pure darkness, or they're flying in pure cloud, or they're flying so high and so fast that you can't possibly see any planes around you. They have a small little map on their instrument
Dashboard.
Yeah. And they could see a little area around them and the kind of the traffic in and around them, but they can't possibly use that to rely on themselves to move around to avoid other planes. That's where we come into play, because we have the bird's eye view. I see every single plane on my screen. I know what every plane's doing, and I have the ultimate control of every plane. So if I tell a pilot, you're going to spin for 2 hours, he has to spin for 2 hours. If I tell him go right, left, up, down, and just keep doing that in a pattern, and he thinks I'm joking, and he can't question my decision. He has to obey every single thing I say. Hence the control.
And you were doing this when you were how old?
When I was
22 years old.
I was doing this at 22 years old.
This is what we do. We put 22-year-olds.
I was 22 years old, and I was yelling at a 60-year-old pilot who's been a captain for 30 years, telling him, go spin around until I tell you to stop.
So it brings me back to your situation, right? Your situation, you know, so just to put it into context, I worked in a restaurant when I was in my early 20s, and a busy restaurant is utter chaos. It's just chaos. Okay. There's shit going all over the place. There's somebody who's allergic to walnuts being served somebody else's dish that has anything and everything that you think can go wrong in a workplace happens at a restaurant, right? Yeah. Now, we were just at the Royal Agricultural Fair that you have the contract for a significant section of that, right? And it just, when I was paying attention to you and your staff and everybody, it was chaos. It was just chaos, right? And once again, I decided to leave that world and go into a consulting role. And I have my own stresses that extend after hours and whatnot.
Of course.
But how the hell do you deal with that sort of chaos, that chaotic environment? Because concierge services, hospitality, it's always chaos.
Yeah, it always truly is. It's like, obviously it's different than your care, Stefan, because in the end of the day, you're just trying to entertain people, right? That's
you might piss some people off. You're not
exactly. I'm not look, in the end of the day, that's the part. It's fun for us because you take this job on because you really want to make sure that people like having a great experience after you serve something to them. Like the best story for that I have is actually we're opening this restaurant on Ossington, right? This is 2010, right? chef is really known, food is great, but every opening has its own challenges, right? And the worst thing you can do for a restaurant is actually to have tables that are like larger than 6 people, because it's hard for the kitchen, right? It's hard for the kitchen to produce everything. Like first seating goes really well, no issues. Second seating, because chef knew all, and the owner knew all this like brokers, pastry guys and all that, and then basically guys come with like tables of 12. So this restaurant is 80 seats. We have only like 6 tables at this point of time. And it's a brand new kitchen, opening and everything else.
I bet you they're all ordering the most stupidest shit on the menu. Yeah.
Let's go steak, couple steaks.
Yeah, no pasta.
No. There's it's just like mayhem right now. In one point, and in like, even though this is now 2010, I am like 14 years ago, I remember like it was yesterday, because kitchen stops, screeching halt. And I'm running around the dining rooms, putting more wine, and like I'm like shocking oysters to just help. In one point of time, chef comes to me. It's like 9:45. He's like, "Shut down the restaurant, get everybody out." I'm like, "Chef, you're not fucking Ramsay. Get back to your kitchen.
Relax, bro. You're getting paid.
We need the money from this opening, and we need people to come back." And this restaurant was like a really 5-star restaurant for like top 10 restaurants in the city for first couple of years. It was great we had great service and great food. But that tells you that in hospitality, everything can happen at any point of time. People call sick, people do that, and even in restaurant is a closed-in environment in the sense it operates like 260 days a year or what have you, with a couple of days off. But when you come to the events, like, such as Royal Agricultural Winter Fair, that's even worse.
Because it's a different beast, right?
Completely different beast. You're open for 10 days. What we do for the Royal is actually build restaurants from scratch. They give me open space, like that used to be a storage space, and I have to build this restaurant. It's like Harbor 60, and then everybody's in black tie and things like that. The event you went to is like we had this chef's table dinner series that we
it was awesome.
Like great chefs, like we had great chefs.
$150 and it was amazing.
It was the best deal in the city, truly a steal. And we had only 400 tickets. We sold all 400 tickets. It was great. 5 different dinners and just awesome. But now think about this: nobody knows anybody in that environment. You just came together for singular purpose of serving the guests a great meal.
So the workers, they've never worked with each other.
I put a team together, then they're a great team, but they didn't work. All the managers never worked with each other. Like in Stefan's case, if these managers or traffic controllers, they work with each other, with the pilots and knew what they're doing, that would be a catastrophic event.
Just be planes flying out with meteorites.
In our case, it's like you need to gel really, really fast in order to kind of service the guests, right? Because there's inherent thing with hospitality. Everybody likes to talk about the food and beverage. Everybody likes to comment on food and beverage and hospitality experience. If you're only good as your last service was great, and today you did something or you it up, then you have an issue. And everyone who matters in the city will know really fast, because everybody talks, even though it's like 6.5 million people city. The city's small when it comes to that.
And people are very willing, especially if it's a venue, an established venue, people are very willing to leave a 1-star review on Google. This place insulted my mother and blah, 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 and whatever. Open up fake Google accounts and leave 1-star reviews, right?
Social media, if I only knew somebody like that. I don't know. All that to say that you're so exposed nowadays when you're running all these events and restaurants and concierge services, because you depend on the people. And when you depend on the people, you either train people to the in your staff to the proper level, and you have to make sure that hiring is done appropriately. And that's the reason we're so lucky. Our HR director, Natalie, she's awesome.
And that's the big point that I wanted to get to, right? Your industry, and I'm being serious now, I'm not joking, like how many people, the workers in everybody in your industry, there's a lot of people up on substances, like they and I don't blame them.
Huge issue.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
alcohol, drugs, chain smoking. Like there's a lot of people that just, and I guess that's how they deal with stress.
It's stress, and it's a little bit more fun because in the end of the day, you're working till 4 o'clock in the morning. Look, that's so apparent now in today's hospitality industry, unfortunately, like because of the fact that I know so many chefs, they're like substance abuse. I know so many of my friends, they're actually promoters, there's substance abuse. One of my friends is checked in rehab. It's such a big issue, and it got more prominent even before COVID, and now after COVID, even more so. The other problem is, or challenge for this industry, especially for this city, is finding a professional service staff. Back of the house is actually working pretty nicely now.
And when you say back of the house, you mean
kitchen
line
cooks, line cooks, because now even like roll back in the 10, 15 years ago, George Brown started doing these courses for chefs and cooks and things like that. So you do
they're pumping out some skilled labor.
Pumping up some skilled labor. Front of the house, it's not like Europe. Europe, you go to some of the restaurants and you're waiting for like
incredible.
So going back to this restaurant, so most of my front of the house staff, servers and bartenders, this was just a gig for them, and they had most of them wanted to be like actors or actresses. One random Wednesday, we had like 5 servers working for that shift. 3 servers called me, like the shift starts 5:30. They called me at 4 o'clock to tell me they have an audition. They're not going to show up.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
They don't care. They're like, and then they're like, and I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to show up? We have a full restaurant. So I had to go serve, which not a big deal. But in the end of the day,
but you can't manage and serve at the same time.
That level of service is always an issue for this city, and will remain to be an issue in the foreseeable future, because when you go to some of the restaurants now, they're even Michelin star or Michelin bib, you just like...
Yeah, a lot of the servers, it's not a career for them.
No, it's not a career.
It's like it's a means to a paycheck in the moment. Right.
And that moment really for them is there are really few professionals that I know. They're mostly mixologists or general managers, but there's really few servers that I know that I can say, hey, you're a professional server. Most of them, it's just a gig economy for them. Right? That's what it is, right? And it's unfortunate.
You see it. We'll go to dinner all the time.
You see it. It's just
horrible service.
Yeah.
Especially in it's happened. But in New York wasn't that. We were just in New York. It wasn't that good either there. But here in Toronto, the service in the hospital, and the prices have gone up like freaking crazy. Like
crazy.
To go out to not even a Michelin starred restaurant, have a couple glasses of wine, some nice food. Easily, a couple can spend $500.
Oh, easily. Like, and that's the issue, right? You look what you're getting, right? You're like $500. What did they get?
I can make that. I can make it half the time
I can make it
at home.
at home, and actually, I'm gonna buy this great bottle of wine, and it's gonna be great. Yeah. But like, look, and that's the true issue that we have right now, and that's the reason Michelin didn't come to Toronto forever. Like, they just came few years back to start getting Michelin stars or Michelin bibs. Even now, it's just there's no free Michelin star restaurant in the city, which is for 6.5 million people.
I mean, we've been to a couple of them. They were good.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
But I see why nobody got a 3.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
They're just...
To be honest, I've been more impressed with the bibs.
Yeah, me too.
Like, actually, my friend owns a restaurant. He was one of the first guys to get a bib, right? Yeah. Great restaurant. I actually enjoyed that restaurant more than any of the, especially the fact that I didn't have to pay for it. The prices of any of the stuff.
That's the best part. But look, in the end, in the end of the day, it's just that, like, when talking about the staff, it's really important who you actually hire. Even if I was talking to one of the chefs that has a one Michelin star restaurant in Toronto, he was saying that they struggle from the perspective of getting the right staff in right positions. So what they decided is actually to hire like young kids to make sure they train them and to train them to the level of service they really want and need, right? And it's really important.
I mean, staffing places is a big struggle.
You guys are
everywhere.
Every industry is dealing with staffing.
Completely.
They say there's listen, you put your finger on the economy, you talk about increased interest rates, the economy not doing well. Are we in recession? Are we not in recession? the reality of the matter is I've been looking for an accountant to work for me for months, and I can't find one. So it's the jobs I think must be out there. I don't know if anybody wants to do them.
It's a mystery.
No, but
right?
And that's the issue.
It's a
wherever,
mystery.
Wherever I go, when I even talk to my clients and talk to you guys, everybody's like, where are the people? Where are we going to find
staff.
these people? And for us, that's one of the most important things, because you know what? Like we grow so much to the point that we need like 50 staff for some of the events, 75 staffs for some of these events. And we don't have that on a full-time basis, because you shrink and expand as the economy or your client requires you to do. And then now just imagine overnight you need to find 30 people for the Royal.
Yeah.
For the Royal, we need to find like 35 people. And my HR director is like, scrambling, figuring out what to do.
Yeah,
and how
to convince
go.
people to work for 10 days.
It's that like, okay, like we need to now cross-train some of the people, you don't know. This takes place at Exhibition Place and a care center. It's a 1 million square feet building. Explain them where the Hall A is or Heritage Court. They're going to be like, where is this? I'm going to get
But not only
lost.
that,
Yeah.
you have to have a couple different horse shows. You have to have you have to do a cow show.
Yeah.
You have to have multiple restaurants. You have to have a trade show area.
Yeah.
You have a nightclub that just pops up out of nowhere. Right.
No, truly.
All these, like a nightclub has nothing to do with, people don't understand. A nightclub has nothing to do with a restaurant. A restaurant has nothing to do with a food hall.
No.
A food hall has nothing to do with a horse show, and a horse show literally has nothing to do with a cow show.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all different
It's
streams.
chaos.
It's organized chaos. And you think about, that's the reason I love Royal so much. It's such a unique show because you have all these animals, just like llamas and things like that. So I have to tell you a story about one of my favorite.
Fucking llama.
Yeah, llama.
What are llamas even there for? I don't understand why
but
why do we
People in
have these?
tuxedos petting llamas
Yeah,
and
like
then
I'm
gonna
sitting
go
there with a tuxedo
with the tuxedo.
Yeah.
or like a bow tie. And
Talking to
like,
a goat farmer how to
and
milk
then
a goat.
literally this goat farmer's like squeezing this goat's nipples, like milk squirting.
And
all
we're
over
looking
the
at it
place.
like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then there's a fucking llama. What the hell is this place, man?
So my favorite story from the Royal is Royal is 10 days long, right? There are obviously 2 Sundays in 10 days. So last Sunday before Royal closes, there's like this prize rabbit competition, right? And I don't know if you guys ever saw these prize rabbits. They're like huge. They're this big, right? They're all really.
Who needs a rabbit that
I know,
big?
They're this big, right?
Are you eating it after?
Yeah. Looking after the rabbit. That's not even
Like,
a
what
good
are they
joke for
doing
this.
with these rabbits?
I have no idea.
Milking them?
Like honestly, every time I see them, like, man, this is a rabbit.
Yeah.
So like, there's like a serious competition about this for these rabbits, right?
And there's money on the line, bro.
Yeah, money on the line. It's like you know what? They actually compete within this different fairs during the year to come to this is their Olympic Games, to come to the finals, and this is the finals that take place at the Royal. And there's like usually, I don't know, 10 to 15 of these rabbits, and there's like serious competition going on. There's like people in the jury, they're like, oh, this rabbit has, I don't know what they're looking for, or whatever else, right? This is now taking place on last Sunday, and this particular Sunday, there was a fire alarm, and we're all running around, like, trying to figure out what's happening, because, fire alarm in the Royal is a serious thing. You have like cows, you have animals, and all this, and place people. Seriously, it is a zoo. We're just running around, and it turns out after 15 minutes, we figure out that this is actually a fake fire alarm, so it's all good. And I'm like walking literally like, okay, it's all good. I'm walking besides the ring where they're judging these rabbits, and I see these people actually crying. I'm like, don't worry, guys, the fire alarm is gone. And they're like, no, we just proclaimed the winner, and Price Rabbit died because he had a heart attack.
Are you fucking
because of the fire alarm, this Prize Rabbit we got the first prize.
I'm trying not to
Got a heart attack.
I'm like, ooh, I better start walking away. I'm
How
like,
big was this thing?
it's like this.
What is wrong with people?
Yeah,
Like, what do you need a rabbit that big? A dinosaur rabbit?
I
Make
don't know.
money doing that.
Rabbit? Like,
I have no
shit.
idea, dude. Like in the end of the day, that tells you there's so many cool things about a Royal that you don't see during a year and any other show. Because when I used to do tennis, don't get me wrong, tennis is cool. It's all about tennis players and tennis matches and things like that. PGA Canadian Open, same thing. But for the Royal, when you think about that,
Yeah,
you're
you're dealing with human-sized rabbits
rabbits, huge, giant pumpkins, things like that, like stuff that you're like, oh
and
my God.
then you have to run a makeshift restaurant, a makeshift nightclub, and you're there 16 hours a day. Maybe even more.
Yeah, easy.
Maybe more.
Yeah. So we start like 7 o'clock, like on last Saturday, we start 7 o'clock in the morning and we're done by 4 in the morning. So because of the fact that everything is going, like it's like a last big horse show, like restaurants are full blown. And then after restaurants to a point, there's like a club, right? Yeah. That club is done by 2 o'clock in the morning, but by the time you pack it up, it's 4. Yeah.
Total chaos. So I mean, both of you guys deal with this chaos. I want to ask you a question though, Stefan. What is the craziest thing that's happened since you started working there? Because I know that there's been some close calls and
there's not a lot, like it's hard to define one specific like day or situation, but the craziest days that we have is in the summer where you have weather, because weather's an outlier, right? So if you have thunderstorm clouds, planes can't fly through thunderstorm clouds. They just can't. They can't go above
I didn't
them.
know that.
Yeah, like they can't fly through because the electricity in the thunderstorm cloud. Right?
I thought it could just go right through barrel roll. I didn't know it
can't do it. So basically in the summer when you have all these massive thunderstorm clouds, we have the Great Lakes around here. You can't fly above it because they're so high. They're up to 50,000 feet. You can't go above it. Below it depends on the rain. And around it, they could be 400 miles long. You have a wall and you see it on the morning. You'll just have a wall of weather just moving and moving and moving. And in every plane, there could be holes in this weather. Every plane is going for the same hole, right? Because they're trying to get through and through to the other side. If they're not going to that hole, they're deviating like...
they could add hours to their trip.
I've had planes. So picture New York to Chicago. It flies in a direct line. It cuts over the southern part of Ontario, right? So it flies right over Toronto, lands in Chicago. I've had weather in Toronto where the plane goes over north of Timmins, which is like 800 kilometers north of Toronto, basically pointed to Winnipeg and then down to Chicago.
Oh my
so
God.
It's adding miles, gas. The airlines hate it because whatever, right? So the craziest days is involved with that because then you get turbulence. Now you're worried about passenger safety. You have planes complaining. They're flying all over the place. They're not on their specified route that we see. They're flying all over the place. So those are the busiest days. And for us, when we train, like what you said, when we're talking about staff and training, there's two things, right? When we call it plugging in. You plug in your headset to talk to the planes into your radar screen. And when you're plugged in, you're controlling the radar. So when we run simulation and training, there's two types of people. There's people that when we simulate the craziest, busiest days, 30 planes on frequencies, planes going all over the place, constant communication. Two types of people. Students either figure it out with controlled chaos. They're able to say, okay, this isn't working, I move on to this. Okay, this isn't working, move on to this. Oh, this plane now had to turn here. Okay, well, if he turned there, okay, now this is my next step. They're able to work through this chaos. It's not pretty, but they're able to get it done. Or they unplug and walk away because they just fail. Or they just are unable to handle it. And it goes to the same as you when you're relating it to the restaurant. Because we have a lot of chefs that are great air traffic controllers or people that work.
I was going to say,
because
it's not necessarily their first career.
Exactly.
People progress into this.
Because when you say when the kitchen closes, if you unplug, imagine you just walked out.
Yeah.
So there's the types of people in this world that are going to say, I'm out. I
can't deal with
can't deal with this. I'm out. And then there's a type of people that are going to say, well, COVID hits. I have my whole hospitality business shut down. What am I going to do? Well, okay, let's move to the next thing. What's the next thing I could do? Or you just say, okay, well, I'm not going to make money. I'm just going to sit on the couch for 8 hours a day, right? So there's two types of people in life, I find. And that's why I kind of will relate my job, even though it's unrelatable to accounting or hospitality. But on the grand scheme of things, the successful air traffic controllers are often the same type of mind as people that run a successful business, the people that run a successful restaurant, right? We have a saying, not one situation that is thrown at you that you can't figure out something to do with it.
Yeah, but you see, what I like is actually what you said about being plugged in or plugged out. That's what I find in any industry. It doesn't matter what industry is. You're either plugged in and you're trying to figure out because nothing is pretty. Not anywhere you go, accounting, hospitality, air traffic control, nothing is going to be like, oh, we're going to have a streamlined plan. We're going to have a roadmap and it's going going to
Exactly.
exactly happen according to the roadmap. No way. Because you have to figure out what's up, and then you're plugged in, you're solving, you're solutionizing, and things like that.
It's never pretty. It's rarely going to be pretty and exactly how you want it to
you
go.
have people that just plugged out and decided they want to deal with this.
Yeah.
And that's what I find, that like there's like really in life you have to try to figure out who you're coming to play with, and you want to play with people that are going to be plugged in.
Guys, I can tell you, my job does not have any of this fucking shit. I don't have, no one's going to die.
Yeah,
if I screw up, I can ruin people financially. That for sure. I can ruin their life completely financially by making the wrong investment decisions for them, putting them into the wrong type of insurance product, doing a tax plan that screws up. The thing is, it's a very analytical, process-driven thing. I look at the situation, I say, okay, this, and I have some time to think, you know what I mean? It's very rare that I'm put into a position where a decision must be made in 20 seconds or a disaster will
But look, in the grand scheme of things, when you started a business, right? When you started your own small business,
yes.
Is it stressful?
150%.
Of course. And there's multiple challenges that are thrown your way that you aren't relying on.
But it's not peaks of stress and then drop.
It's long-term stress.
It's more like like hills of stress.
I agree. But again, I feel like when you start a business, right, there's two types of people. Again,
they're going to give up. Yeah.
When you get thrown a challenge, and then on that challenge, you get thrown another challenge, then another challenge, then there's no money coming in, then you get thrown another challenge. You're either going to stay within it and figure something out, or try something new out, or you're just going to say, okay, I'm out. I'm going back to
but you know
whatever.
And then honestly, if Fab is just like me being your client, you're actually not giving enough credit, because you know what? Like when we first met, Fab, you're trying to explain what you do and everything else, and then every time in any position that I brought to you, it's not just like, related to financials or accounting, anything like that. Your advice is sound, because your way of thinking, it has a certain analytical perspective that I appreciate really much, because in the end of the day, when I want to bounce any idea off you that has to do with my business or something else, it's a sound analytical process that my mind doesn't have it, because my mind has like, okay, let's do this. And let's just go. And you're sometimes saying to me, you didn't consider 1, 2, or 3. Right. There's a risk assessment here and things like that. So in that way, everybody's brain works a little bit differently. And different skill set. But a different skill set, which it's great when we all put in the same room trying to figure out how we can help each other, right? Because it's in the end of the day, this is all about trying to help each other and push each other into the level that we all need to be.
But that will separate a successful business from an unsuccessful business, or a successful employee from an unsuccessful employee, right? You're able to A, think creatively, and B, when you're thrown a challenge, this client comes to you and says, you know what? I decided I'm going to sell everything, do this, do that, get out of this.
Hey, relax, kid.
You're not even, exactly. You're just going to be like, okay, let's take a second, come in for me. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Did you consider this? What about this?
Yeah.
You're going to get taxed 50%. Like you're able to sit there and be like, well, if you do this, it results in A, B, C, D, and E. You're thinking 5 steps ahead for them.
Right. Not necessarily in the moment. Now, that swings me to a question that I've wanted to ask you for a while, right? Once COVID hit, people started working, especially knowledge workers, they understood I can work from home.
Yep.
Right? There's certain things that you can't do. You can't be an emergency room doctor or a surgeon from home yet.
Yep.
There is technology.
No, it's coming.
There is technology that is coming for that. But at the moment, no. But let's say office workers, which the Canadian economy relies on heavily, office workers. Your industry, the concierge service industry, you're basically servicing, for the most part, offices and office workers, right?
Correct.
Now, you stuck through it and you're getting customers. Are you seeing a resurgence of people going back? Like from the ground, not looking at the actual, they take surveys and this, but sometimes I want to see somebody who's like actually dealing with it.
So from the ground, yes. And it's office by office basis. And we have 2 offices that it's like a story of like, honestly, completely different employee retention and sense of coming back to the office. One same size offices, 1,000 people, One office has 80 people a day coming Monday to Friday. Another office has up to 400 to 500 people coming a day back to the office, excluding Friday, because
Right. So it's not every day.
no, yeah, it's not every day, and it's mostly Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because we know that by number of meals we have to order for this office, because one of the offices have lunches provided, and then client gives us approximate number of lunches that need to be provided for this office, and that's how we know. And the other thing is, when you walk through this office is full, and it's both offices are IT companies. This office that has, they actually had a good strategy. It's called center of gravity. What center of gravity means is, if you work in the marketing department, for example.
That sounds like the biggest bullshit corporate crap that I ever heard of in my fucking life.
No. 1 second. 1 second. Look, usually that I tend to agree that all this, but
I hated that.
Look, center of gravity worked for this office very much so, because you know what, they actually put in marketing teams to say, hey, marketing team, as center of gravity, you have to come, all of you, whatever, 100 people on Tuesday, to be in the same office collaborating that. And that actually cross-pollinate the other teams to come on Tuesday, because marketing was there, and all of a sudden everybody's coming back to the office.
They got it to work. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that comment, by the way. And then second office, they have any kind of a strategy, and they have 80 people still. For us, that's really not what we want to see. For us is obviously we want to see this, like, at least like, because now it's all about hoteling desks as well. The offices are not built to.
I mean, we even had that back to 20 some odd years ago at PwC. We had hoteling desks.
100%. And it's just COVID accelerated all this process, because even other companies before COVID had like hotel desks, and they don't build anymore like enough desks. Like if you have 1,000 employees, you have 1,000 desks. That doesn't cut it in half. Because of real estate costs and everything else. But in the end of the day, if you deploy, what we found is, if the company deploys the right strategy, it's not actually pushing people back,
not forcing.
It's like a little bit of softer approach, where you have some like meals. There's a social aspect of all this, that people actually come back to the office.
It's got to be forcing, because you know what, you can't force people. Once you force, that only works.
Against you, I guess. Actually,
in the end, it's like your kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Force. What ends up happening? You just scrap with them, and nothing gets done.
And in the end of the day, it's war for talent, like we talked about, everywhere in all industries, which is perpetuated in IT. And if people can easily go jump from one office to another office if they're not happy in the IT industry, right? So that if you have a good strategy and you know how to do this on a really using your soft skills, you're gonna, like, companies are very successful in that, right?
Okay. Well, perfect. I mean, I have one more question. Have you seen a UFO? And if you have, are you even allowed to tell us?
Yeah.
Or is it classified?
I'll just answer no.
Okay, fuck you. All right, guys. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Perfect.